And I said, and what do you do? And he says, oh, well, I'm an actor as well. And I said, oh, okay, stage or like, and he was like, well, mostly film and television. And I'm like, oh, would I have seen you in anything? And he was like, yeah, maybe. I'm on this show on HBO.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to They Had Fun. I'm Rachel, and I am back with another amazing story about New York City. And up first are my two New York recommendations for you. Then we're going to hear from my guest and hear their wonderful story. So up first, let's go ahead and get into my recommendations. Number one, I'm just going to get out of the way. Okay, here it is. I'm doing Summer Streets again, and I'm sorry if this seems like an out or that I'm taking it easy, but the truth is, as I've always told you guys, when it comes to my Rachel's Recs, I have to talk about what I'm really enjoying. And as I was sitting here being like, what am I going to say? All I've been loving is Summer Streets, and you guys have 2 more weeks to do it, and maybe blame this person. My best friend in all of New York City texted me yesterday that she's going to go to Summer Streets next weekend because she's never been. And I'm like, okay, I really need to belabor this point a bit more. If my best friend who has lived here forever has never been, and I'm constantly talking about it and putting it on social media and putting it in the podcast. So here I am again this week to say to you, the best time of the year is here. You can go to Summer Streets again this Saturday or next Saturday. It goes till 3 o'clock. Walk, ride your bike, get on roller skates, do anything you want. I love it so much. Okay, quick, easy on that one because I know I've already chatted about it. Okay, next up. I don't know what's going on, if this is like a brag or something, but since returning from my vacation, I cannot stop craving champagne. I don't know what a little diva. It's just the truth. I love champagne normally, but I have found myself going out since I've come back and being able to access the finer things in life that were maybe not available to me when I was in a different country. So listen, I don't know. Everywhere I've gone, of course, I'm going to Company. I had a champagne at their happy hour. Just a little note, you can get champagne on Company's happy hour. That's amazing. Okay. I had champagne when I went out with my friends and we went to the Mulberry. I went out by myself and got a drink at the bar at a place I might say for Rachel's Rec, so I'm not going to tell you that one. I got champagne there. My husband and I were doing Summer Streets. As you can imagine, we're biking around. We're in Midtown. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just craving a glass of champagne. Stopped over in Bergdorf's. You're getting the theme here. At some point, my wallet, my credit card will tell me I must stop, but right now I cannot be stopped. And one of my favorite places to get champagne popped in my head, and I went and I looked through our map, and I have not talked about the Crosby Street Hotel. I don't know how this has not come up. It's one of my favorite hotels in the city. I've done a staycation there before during COVID when I got a really wild deal, so I don't think that'll ever be happening again. But I love their bar too. Okay, so obviously it's on Crosby Street. It's in the middle of Soho. It is this wonderful 5-star hotel in the middle of Soho, but their decor and their design is a little more, it's not stuffy. It's actually a little zany, to tell you the truth, but I still like it. I love sitting at the bar there. I love getting a glass of champagne. They have fries that are pretty good. It's just so cute. And when the weather is nice, they have a courtyard. You can sit out there and get some champagne. It's just one of my favorite spots to get a really nice glass of champagne and to just sit there and enjoy the luxury a little bit. I know we've talked about before, Swan Bar, you could go sit at Balthazar, but I love a fancy hotel. And this one right downtown, if you're ever just like shopping or you're in that area, such a good place to pop into. I love Crosby Street Hotel. I hope I get to stay there again one time in my life. Probably not going to happen. Okay, those are my Rachel's Recs. Get out on a bike. Guys, and if you're thinking, I'm not going to get on a bike and then I'm going to go drink champagne, yes, you can. I walked right into Bergdorf's 7th floor restaurant, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to name drop. I ran into a celebrity. I ran into Ellen DeGeneres in my sweaty clothes biking up the streets of Manhattan. Okay, so if I can do it, you can do it. Go get on a bike. Go have some champagne. Enjoy your summer in New York City. Treat yourself sometime. Okay, let's go ahead and get into my guest for today because this one is super, super fun. She's got a couple of titles, but right up at the top is one of the most interesting ones. We're going to talk a little more about it. She is a fan of They Had Fun. That's right. She requested that title. I'm just saying that. She also happens to be an actress trapped in the body of a corporate marketer. Please welcome to the show, Tanya Fazal.
Hello. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here. And I know you know that.
I do know that because we are going to talk about just a little bit I feel we have to talk about it, but it kind of makes me feel a little gross. But I'm like, you are a fan of the show, but like in the most lovely way possible. You have liked listening to the show. You reached out to me. And the honest to God truth is, when you emailed me, I like screamed at my husband and I was like, someone's listening. Like,
Oh my God, Rachel, you don't even understand how much this show has helped me. Like, I lived in New York City for 15 years. I love New York City like it's a person. I miss it so, 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 so much. And
oh.
when I started having to like drive to work every day, come on, who does that? In New York, no one does that. I needed content to listen to. And I started searching for like New York City podcasts, and I came across yours, and it made me feel like closer to home, and it made me like really, really happy. And
Is it seriously like, again, not to toot my own horn, but that was truly like the dream of this show, is that other people who are as like obsessed with New York as I am, and especially someone who, had to leave and maybe still loves it so much that they would hear something like this and be like, God, the memories, the reminders, filling that void, So, okay, that's enough. We don't have to talk about any more than that. I'm just glad to know that you liked it, that you were willing to reach out to me. We had a drink together when you were in New York and visiting, and we just got to talk all things New York. And you kind of said, I'd love to be on the show if you'd ever think about it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So, we're going to tell the honest truth to everyone now that you no longer live in New York, but that's okay. You have a huge love for New York. You were here for a very long time. You were an actress in the city. That's something we can talk about, but we've only really had, I think, on the show, maybe one or two other people who have left, but had huge loves for New York. So you're in a very rarefied, dignified area, all of your own. But why don't we talk a little bit about all of the, like, you acted here, you did all of this. What were some of your favorite parts when you were here?
well, I got to the absolute honor of playing Medea in a production of Medea. And that's
Yeah.
Euripides Medea, not like anything Tyler Perry oriented. It was really a dream come true because I read the play for the first time as a freshman in college, absolutely fell in love with this character that is so hard for most people to relate to. For listeners who don't know Medea, she infamously kills her children. Um, so like I had this like empathy for her that so many of my classmates like could not get to. And I remember saying to my professor, it is my dream to play the role of Medea. And then like 14 years later, I was like acting pretty frequently in the city, and I was very involved with the stage community. And a director friend of mine said, let's do Medea, and will you play Medea? And it was just this like, absolute dream come true. I think I showed you the photo the one time we met where there's like my face was on a poster in the window. It was just like, oh my God, I'm playing my dream role in New York City at a professional theater. This is just like the best.
That is the type of things, like, just at the beginning right here, we got this one little nugget, which is the kind of things we always hope to get in this little intro here, is the nugget of like a dream coming true. Like, these are what we hope for people who come to New York City. You're like, for 14 years, I wanted to play that role. And like you said, you got to do it in New York fucking City. Everything we talk about, there are a lot of shitty things here, but there are also stories of people who are like, man, 14 years later, I got it. And I got to play my dream role of Medea.
Well, let me tell you about something that would only happen in New York. So I'm doing the matinee production, right, on Sunday, and I never eat before a show because it just, nervous energy, etc. So after the show, I'm very hungry. And so every Sunday after the show, I would go to this diner that was across the street from the theater. It's not there anymore. And I would sit at the counter area, the bar area of the diner. And because I would come every Sunday, the bartender slash waiter knew me. And he said, oh, I think there's a guy here who just came from your show. He's in the bathroom right now, but he just came from your show. He had your program. So I'm like, oh, how interesting. So the guy comes and sits down, and I'm like, oh, did you go see that show? And he was like, yes, it's very good, blah, blah, blah. You just, if you like theater, you must go see it. And you have to understand, as Medea, I was like crazed and like holding a blood soaked sword and, and here I am sitting in the diner with like my sundress and like my hair flippy and all of that. And I'm like, I hold up the program. I'm like, it's me. And he was like, wow, it's you. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, who represents you? And I was like, well, I don't have representation. And he was like, well, I used to be in the business, but now I'm retired. But I'm going to call my friend who still is. And he like calls this agent while I'm there and says, you've got to talk to this girl, Tanya. I just came from her show. So he calls me. He actually calls me and asks to come to my show. And he does. And then he signs me.
This is the type of thing that don't really happen, I feel like, to people. This is like an incredible amount of luck, but it's a story that I love to hear. You're like, I just went over to this diner and yeah, I got an agent out.
I couldn't believe he actually came to the show. That was just shocking to me.
Yeah, most of the time I feel like that stuff doesn't happen. It's like true like luck here. And so we're already hearing that you had this kind of like, you know, a successful career as an actress in New York City. I mean, hell, you got an agent like out of someone just seeing your sheer talent at a show. That's the type of things that literally people dream of, stuff like that happening to them. So just with those little things that we know and the love that's already there, let's transition and go ahead and get into the normal round of questioning for the show. We can start with the first one to learn more about you. And that is, when did you move to New York?
I moved to New York August 2005 to attend business school at Stern, at NYU Stern.
Okay, so I feel like we're gonna have a little like path changing situation here, and this isn't the first person that we've had on the show who also went to Stern, but maybe that wasn't what they planned on doing or something like that. Okay, so you're coming August 2005. That's almost like right around the same time that I came. You're showing up. You're going to school, so I'm guessing you're coming to like a dorm. Did you get your own apartment? What's happening?
I got an apartment. It was in Midtown East, 59th between First and Second. And I remember, like, I was so I just didn't know New York when I first moved here, right?
Right.
So the concept of finding an apartment in a week was very foreign to me. So I was like totally hoodwinked. And I hired what are the things called that everybody hates?
Brokers?
Yeah, like the people who get you your apartment.
Brokers.
A broker fee. Yeah, brokers.
Those people
So
everyone hates.
so I got a broker, and this broker managed to convince me that it would be very difficult for me to find an apartment like the 1 week before I need to start school. So I should just get this apartment that he's showing me now and just pay 2 months of rent, that even though I'm not living there. So I do that. It's okay.
Wow.
It's all right. It was a dumb thing to do. But yes, I got the apartment in June and was paying rent for June and July and didn't move till August. And I remember, like, how am I going to get the keys? What am I going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to leave them at the dry cleaners downstairs. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you just leave them at the dry cleaners downstairs? Because I didn't like know the New York City hustle. That's like actually a thing people do, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, I've seen people like my neighbors have been like, I want to drop them at the bodega. You can get them later.
Yeah. So I'm like so worried that it's not going to be at the dry cleaners, but it is. So I get my keys, I go into my new apartment, which is actually fairly big for a New York City studio. And I walk in, and oh, I'm from Texas. So everyone in Texas thinks that New York and New England, like the whole Northeast area, is cold. And if they have a summer, it's mild. This is not true. So it's New York City in the middle of a heat wave. It is so hot. It is like as hot as it is in Houston. And my apartment doesn't have an air conditioner. And it's just like, it's been like closed for 2 months with nobody in it. No one opening the door. It's like, it is absolutely an oven. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? This is so hot. And it was like unbearable. I tried to like, and I'm broke because I'm a student. So I didn't want to spend the $300, but then finally I had to because it was just too hot. But then all the hardware stores were sold out of air conditioning units because it was a heat wave.
Oh,
anyway,
my God.
I finally ordered one. It came. And then the delivery guy, like literally the UPS guy, I'm like, now what am I going to do with this? I don't know how to install a window unit. And I was like, hey, if I give you $50, will you install this window unit for me? And so he did. So I was like picking up on the New York City hustle.
I was just gonna say, to be like, I don't feel like I would have figured that out, to have that like, ingenuity or something, to be like, if I throw you a 50, will you take care of this for me? Like in here, I'm like thinking about this kid who, I'm guessing you're gonna be in school. You're like 18.
No. I was in grad school. So I was
grad school. Okay, still relatively young. We're like 22. You're coming to Stern, right? Of course, Stern. Okay, sorry, but you're 22, and then you're living like at 59th and First, which is kind of like a really interesting area to wind up in. And then you're like traversing down there. Okay, so we're getting into our second question, which is, why did you move to New York? Obviously, like the first sort of answer there is to go to Stern School of Business, but what is the real reason about why you decided to go there instead of anywhere else? Give us like the whole story.
I mean, I had wanted to live in New York City my whole life. I was an actor in Houston, not doing professional stuff yet, but I was an actor, and that part drew me as well. Like, I interviewed at really, really wonderful schools, and I was just so happy to be accepted, and I'm so happy that I chose Stern. It was a great business school experience. Really wonderful.
Okay, so you just always had this love of New York City. You get the acceptance letter. Are you just like, that's it? I'm living the dream. I'm going to be in New York City. I'll be able to pursue some of my passions on the side. Like, that's what you're thinking, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't actually start auditioning until I graduated from school.
Oh, okay. So you're like there, you're full steam ahead. I mean, duh, it's like one of the best business schools in the world. That makes sense. You graduate and then you start going into the creative pursuit, even on top of like having a full time job.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
graduated from Stern in 2007, went to work for American Express right away, right, like right out of school. And as soon as when you're in business school, you don't have time for anything. So
Sure.
when I had the time, which was when I was working, because I had weekends and evenings free, I started auditioning right away and was fairly lucky in terms of how quickly I was cast in things. More success in New York than ever in Houston. So
Well, I think, we got to apply a little element of luck, but a lot of it's you and your talent and your skill. And I think it's one of the best things about New York City is that you can have this full time job and pursue this like full passion project on the side.
mhm.
I think you set out a good path for yourself here. Some people come here with like, you know, I'm gonna huff it and I'm gonna try and I'm gonna do and like yours is a little more balanced. And I think that's interesting. Of like, actually, I love this creative stuff, but I really need to get my master's degree and then I will focus on all these things. Okay, so knowing that you always dreamed of living in New York City, that you basically had a successful acting career on top of having like a regular successful career, and that you do still have such a love for the city. Why don't I ask you the most important question of the show? And I know you know this one very well. That, of course, is Tanya. What is the most fun you've ever had in New York City?
So this was very, very recent. I was a recent transplant to New York. So I'd only been in the city for, I think like 2 weeks maybe, and school hadn't even started yet. And I had always, like in college and high school and stuff, I'd always had a part-time job. So it never occurred to me that I wouldn't have a part-time job while I went to business school. Later, I found out that that's just not possible, but I didn't know that then. So I'm like hanging out at the local bar downstairs from my apartment, right downstairs. And there's this guy, the bartender I'm talking to, and he's, oh, you just moved here, I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. And he's like, well, my friend is a manager at the Thirsty Scholar on 8th Street, which is right by NYU. Do you remember the Thirsty Scholar?
I don't know if I do. 8th Street and what was the cross street?
I think it's between second and third.
Okay. No, I don't think I know it. Okay, sorry.
Anyway, whatever. So he's like at the Thirsty Scholar and he's looking to hire some people. I'll give him a call. Why don't you go down there and whatever? So the guy tells me, yeah, come tomorrow night around 8 p.m. And this is a Friday night. So I go Friday night at 8 p.m. and I'm sitting at the bar and I tell the bartender, so and so told me to come. I'm looking for a job. And he's like, oh, okay. He just stepped out. He'll be back in like 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, I'll wait. And so I'm waiting there and someone comes and sits down next to me. And as I do, I start up a conversation with the person sitting next to me. And he's a very friendly, nice gentleman. And he's like, oh, so you just moved from New York. And I like proceed to tell him, yeah, I moved here to go to business school, but I'm also an actor. And I like list out all of my like community theater references and experiences. um, and he's like listening and like really engaging and like delighting me with his interest in my rendition of the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz. Like, so we're talking about this, and I said, "And what do you do?" And he says, oh, well, I'm an actor as well. And I said, oh, okay, stage or like, and he was like, well, mostly film and television. And I'm like, oh, would I have seen you in anything? And he was like, yeah, maybe. I'm on this show on HBO. And Rachel, I was talking to Micheal Imperioli, who plays
Oh
Chris
my
in The Sopranos.
God. I'm just like waiting. I'm like, who's it gonna be? Who is this gonna be? It's gonna be somebody. It's gonna be a foot and mouth.
And I have just spent the last hour talking about all my community theater shows in Houston, Texas.
But he's like a real theater actor. I'm sure he like loved it. I'm sure he loved hearing all of that stuff.
He was extremely gracious and very kind. And obviously I was a little embarrassed and he was like extremely nice about it. Anyway, so we continue to chat. This manager guy is like taking forever to come. And he says to me, oh, well, actually I was just waiting here before I go see this show, this band at this bar a couple doors down. Do you want to come with me? And I was
Stop.
like,
Tanya.
yeah. Yes.
Okay, wait, real quick. Is there like an air of like flirtation or is this just like nice guy? Okay.
Nice. No.
Okay. He seems like a wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
And not that either would be wrong, but just okay. Thank you.
So I'm like a little bit starstruck. And so I'm like, yes, I would love to come with you. So we're walking down like this busy East Village street to get to the bar where the show is. And like everyone's stopping him, like, hey man, you're Chris from The Sopranos. Hey man, wow, you're Chris. Oh my gosh, can I take a photo with you? And I'm just thinking, New York City is the coolest place ever. So we go to the bar, we see the band, they're so much fun. It was just like an incredible night. And then we're walking back to like take the subway or taxi, and he's just the nicest guy. He gives me a hug, and we parted our ways, and that's that.
Are you kidding me? What? You're just like standing with him through the whole show? Just like, are you guys like, like, are you chit chatting? Are you like having drinks, or
No,
what's kind
we
of
were having drinks. We weren't chit chatting so much because the music was loud, but we were just having a really fun time. And the whole time I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. First of all, I can't believe I didn't know I was with Micheal Imperioli, and now I'm like with him, and all his like fans are coming up to us. It was wild.
I think, like, first of all, this story is wild, and I just love you guys parting ways. So New York to be like, right, but sayonara, like, see, like, who knows, like, goodbye, see ya, like, who knows? But the thing that's like, I think the best element of this story, which is wonderful, is that it was right when you moved here, right when you come and you have no idea what your life is going to be or what's going to happen to you, and for that to happen right in the first like 2 weeks, to be like, yeah, that I just ran into this super famous person at a bar and he invited me to go hang out with him all. It's like the things, it is the type of stories that I love to hear on this show. I don't really know if we've had one like this, but this type of thing is just a thing I love, that you just go out and, you know, so did you not interview for the job, I guess? I guess you were like, this is the better thing.
Oh no! While I was talking to him, the manager showed up, and he like wasn't really hiring. I don't know.
The job so it all turned out in the best way possible, because you got to spend a night with Christopher Moltisanti. I love that story. It's so fun. I'm like, man, I hope something like that would happen to me once. I don't think I've ever had that.
I just know that he probably doesn't remember that, right? But to me, it was such a special moment, because it was like, wow, New York City's the best. Every weekend's gonna be like this.
We can all be hanging out and having brunch with Diane Keaton. It's always gonna be like, it's such a fun story. Oh, it's so cute. I love it. Like early 2000s, East Village, running into a famous person, hanging out with them. It's so good. I gotta say, as our first sort of like, I don't know. Again, I feel gross using the word fan, but as the first person who like knew the show well, came in with a mission, like had a story. It's a great story. It's perfect. It's so fun. Okay. I got to ask you the last question of the show. And especially now that you've been gone for a little bit, let's see what you're going to come up with here. What is your favorite thing about New York?
My favorite thing about New York is that New York City is like a person. It is like living, breathing, thriving. I love it like a person. I love New York City like a person. I love New York City like it's my wife. I always think of New York City as a woman. And when I left, the reason I was just so devastated is because it felt like I was like breaking up with the love of my life. It was really sad, but it's still there, and I still visit. And I love New York City because it is like a living, breathing thing, but not just a living, breathing thing, like a living, breathing person. It can be your best friend. You can fight with it. You can be in love with it. You can break up with it. You can go back to it. Like it's a person.
Oh, I love that answer. And it's like you're breaking up with the love of your life. It's so sad. It's kind of making me tear up, but it's like you saying it's still there. You can have your little affairs to remember every once in a while. But I do think that's like such a really cool way of putting it, of like being a person. Because I almost feel that way, like when I leave and you come back, it just keeps on moving. It doesn't care. Like it's like everything's still happening. It's breathing. It's changing. It's evolving. Like everything, even while you're away. And yeah, it'll piss you off and it might not remember you, but like you might show up and you might run into a famous person at a bar. I gotta say, like, I have to close it out with that. Tanya, thank you so much for like having so many nice things to say about the show, for being open to being on the show, for sharing all these great stories with us. They're so good. You can tell that you love New York so much. Hopefully you'll be back soon. We'll go out for another drink. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, it was kind of a dream come true when you said I could be on the show.
Oh, it's so nice of you to say. Wait till my sister hears that. She's going to be like, this bitch's ego is going all over the place. My ego, not yours. Oh my God. To clarify, my ego. Since you're saying that to me. Thank you. It's so kind of you to say. Most of all, thanks, New York. They had fun.